Hi, this is Mark. Today we're going to be looking at the HC-SR04 distance sensor, available from many locations. This nice little device lets you tell when something is getting close. It senses proximity between a sensed object and the sensor itself. It's positioned on a solderless breadboard. What I've done is connected it to a full-size Uno R3 compatible clone board by SainSmart. It's one of my favorites. And I have 3 LEDs that I've configured to light up in various stages when something gets closer to the board itself. Now my purpose in this today is to actually see how far we can miniaturize the entire configuration. So starting off with an Uno R3 is kind of our baseline. So at this point, let me show you what happens. It lights up with a white light when anything is greater than 50 centimeters away from it. When it gets closer than 50, but still outside of 25, it lights up the, I guess it's a pink shade of LED. And then when it gets inside that 25 boundary, it cuts over to the red. So the sensor is very good. It's very sensitive, very easy to configure. No tuning really involved at all. Past a point, I guess you can tweak it a little bit, but none certainly required to make it immediately useful. So this is our baseline. As you can see, you get closer, you get further away. Everything works as advertised. Next up, we'll take a look at another much smaller board. Next up is the DigiSpark from digispark.com. It's a tiny little Arduino clone, and I'm still using it with the same configuration with the HC-SR04 proximity sensor and the same basic criteria that the white light goes on for any object sensed over 50 centimeters away. Then it cuts to the, I guess, pink at between 50 and 25, and then under 25 it goes to red. So first we'll see it in action. Works exactly as you'd expect. And it's kind of hard to see from this angle, so let me try to detach the camera and go up closer and show you the actual board itself. I kind of had to jury rig it a little bit because I didn't want to go ahead and mount the headers on it quite yet. There are some really nice headers that come with it, and there is a nice prototyping board, but I haven't decided exactly the configuration I want to remain with, so I'm just kind of connecting it as best I can. And I'm zooming in on it here. As you can see, it's just not going to focus. There we go. As you can see, the tiny little guy is working just fine, and it drives and is driven by that proximity sensor with no trouble whatsoever. It took me a little bit of figuring out because the pin configuration is a little different, and again, I'm not using the prototyping board, which would have simplified that a bit, but there are 5 pins across the top, or pin plug-ins, plus the normal ones for power and ground and whatnot, and you just have to make sure that you don't conflict with other uses like the USB. So again, very simple, very nice, and it works really well. And finally, we have the TinyDuino from tinycircuits.com, tiny-circuits.com. I'm also testing this with the HC-SR04 proximity sensor. Same drill. It shows a white LED when the object it's sensing is beyond 50 centimeters. Within 50 centimeters, it goes to the pink, and within 25, it goes to the red. And it works the same as the other two. The differences in programming are that I actually with the Uno, I kind of just stuck the 5 pins in the ping and the echo from the proximity sensor in 0 and 1, the digital pins 0 and 1, which are also used for receiving and transmitting. And that worked just fine on the Arduino Uno. Doesn't work just fine with the Proto 1 board with the TinyDuino. I'm not sure if that's something that's supposed to not work fine or isn't supposed to give me any problems, but regardless, I just switched to a couple different pins and everything works as expected. So no real coding changes, just change the pins, and that was no big deal. Really pretty much pain-free all across the board. Small changes required for the DigiSpark, small changes required for the TinyDuino, but nothing too big, and very quick, very nice, very light. I'm going to detach the camera and show, again, this was a very temporary setup because I haven't decided what configuration I want to go ahead and start soldering for a final configuration on these. But I inserted just a small static proof bag in between the different layers of the TinyDuino just so I could stick the pins through the holes and they would make connection with what they were supposed to connect with and nothing else. So it looks kind of ugly, but you know, it is the TinyDuino and it works as advertised. Very nice all the way across the board. Very happy with all the options. Thanks.